with the link, and we'll start it up. So we're gonna get to see the past of the main character in this episode. Don't know what his past is, but we'll get to it. So yeah, that was the last section we tried. Let's learn about his past. So they flash back, or whatever, to the beginning of the timeline? I'm not sure. Oh, and I just made my glasses more foggy than they were. So give me 1 second, I'm just gonna use a microfiber on them. 1 sec. Alright, let's get into it. So yeah, last time we left off, I actually watched the intro, so I did see there's this whole, like, deer thing, some kind of deer mythology or something. Obviously we've seen the antlers on the girls' heads, whether it be in a dream situation or in reality. Don't really know if all the girls are just this mystical thing, or again, if they will be, you know, just, it was just for that, like, one moment that they all had that deer thing, because they got affected by his soot. You know, I don't know. So we'll find out. And let's just get into it. Let's jump right into it. So, the plants, flowers, and even animals were wasting away from a long drought. Rokugami Princess. The plants are wasting away from a long drought. The villagers had reached the last of their limited provisions. The crop fields had almost lost their vibrancy, and little could be expected from the autumn harvest at this rate. If they had been lush, then the villagers would have had hope. They wanted rain, but more than anything, they wanted food to last them through the day. The villagers, starved and dehydrated, groveled. The villagers, starved and dehydrated, groveled. All they could do was wait for a blessing from the heavens. Oops. That said, they couldn't just sit back and starve to death. A group of young men with energy to spare fought back their hunger as they prowled the hills and mountains for game and edible animals. Eventually, they find a wounded deer ran through the dead trees, covering the mountainside. That deer is fleeing. Don't let it escape. Mutsu can catch it. It was the first prey they'd trapped in a while. But when they were about to kill it, it went berserk and tore out of the trap. Even Mutsu, the fastest and strongest youth in the village, had a hard time catching the deer on foot, despite its injuries. But after leaping over a thin mountain stream, the deer ran out of breath and crouched to the ground. We've got you now, dear. Give up. This is the biggest one we've had in a while. The young men readied their spares and tried to cross the stream. But Mutsu shook his head, stopping them. We cannot pass this stream. This is the mountain of Lord Rokugami. I know that, but even the mountain god must forgive this minor transgression. The mountain is forbidden land. Man must not tread upon it. This is the oath our ancestors took with Lord Rokugami in order to be allowed to settle on this land. I wouldn't want to suffer Lord Rokugami's wrath. The deer appeared to know the same thing. It calmly crouched there and stared back at its impotent pursuers. The mountain of Lord Rokugami must never be trod upon. That was the sole taboo imposed on the village. It was said that Rokugami, the deer god's retainers, the golden deer, lived there on the mountain. The mere act of seeing one would extend your lifespan, and the creatures were worshipped. But the mountain was holy ground. Bringing earthly corruption onto it would result in wrath most furious, ferocious.
We have
no choice. We cannot desecrate the mountain. We must search elsewhere. But we can't go back empty-handed. Let's split up and look for some food. But we've nearly taken everything we can. But we don't have another option. Let's do our best. The young men nodded weakly. And everybody split up. If they didn't eat, they'd die. If they didn't want to die, they'd have to find food. From a modern perspective, this was an era where death was a constant companion. But that was just the way things were back then. Those who were born in those times never questioned it. The hunger and the ever-present sense of death were only natural. A certain robust man had lived in this era. His name was Mutsu. You were always threatened by death in that era. There were various theories regarding when the faith entered around the god known as Rokugamihiko no Mikoto began. If the oldest writings were to be believed, it had already existed at some point between the 8th and 12th centuries. In other words, over 1,000 years ago. It's likely that the mountain was designated a non-hunting area so as to prevent people from hunting game such as deer to the point of extinction. Eventually, it became holy ground and was revered as a sacred mountain where the deer god Rokugami lived. And that god became known as Rokugamihiko no Mikoto, the deity enshrined in Iwaimoto Shrine. Normally it would mean that spirit resides in that mountain. So the shrine here was built to worship Rokugami Miko no Mikoto?
No,
the Kurakamis own that mountain, but they don't worship it. Nobody knows where Rokugamihiko no Mikoto's sacred mountain really is. Local history scholars have done their best, but they still haven't found it. Then what do they actually pray to in that shrine? Just gonna take a little sip of water, and then I'll get to those lines. Well, that isn't public. Most of the worshippers have no idea what the real story is. After doing a little research, I think I figured out the right answer. I'll tell you later, but it's quite surprising. It was the Sunday after the Iwaimoto shopping district's Happy Fun Carnival. Miss Hinagata had told me she wanted to talk about something, and so we met at Iwaimoto Shrine. Last week I did something rather shameful. We'd had a sleepover in order to prepare for an early morning. However, I must have caught a cold, as the next day I broke into a fever that forced me to leave the others and go home early. Perhaps it was punishment for my frivolous behavior. Kiko had confessed to me the day before that. At first, I thought going out with her would make for a good learning experience. But I was still in the middle of my training. Until I become a full-fledged man, it was too early for love. I told Kiko that the day of the sleepover. I'd given her the okay at first, and I appreciated her feelings, but I wanted us to go back to the way we were before. Kiko was miffed, to say the least. But eventually she forgave me with a smile. I believe I made the right decision. As for why, I'd had a horrible dream that night that began with us confessing to everyone that we'd started dating. I've been having dreams since the night before. It may even have been the same nightmare over and over again. I ended up hurting Kiko a little. I would have to reflect on that and continue training hard. And that brings us to today.
ご神体はね、本殿にあるのよ。本殿はさらに向こうね。
The Shintai, the object that houses the god's spirit, is in the main hall, further in than what you can see.
もちろんそこは非公開。無理に暴けばたたりがあるそうだから、一般人は誰も入れないけれどね。
It's off limits to the public, of course. It seems forcing it out in the open would invoke the Shintai's wrath, so they're not allowed. Houses the god's spirit.
僕たちはそのご神体に向かってこの拝殿から拝むわけですね。
And that's why we have to pray from the front entrance of the shrine, so we can pray toward the Shintai.
そういうこと。まあ、神社はどこもそうなんだけどね。
Exactly, though that's pretty standard for the shrine. Miss Hinagata had called me over to the shrine to tell me something in private. But since it was related to the shrine itself, I felt like I was on a field trip. At first, I thought she was going to explain why she had invited me to join the LCSC. However,
先生は神社とか郷土史とかに詳しいんですね。
you sure know a lot about the shrine and local history.
まあね、ちょっと縁があって、いろいろと調べてたことがあるの。
I guess so. Let's just say I had a certain connection to it, so I wound up looking into it.
縁って何ですか？
And what do you mean by a local connection?
何から話せばいいんやら。私
Honestly,
も戸惑ってるわ。
I don't even know where to begin.
鈴原くんに信じてもらえるように話せる自信が
I'm still
未
not
だにないの。
I'm still not confident that I could explain it in a way that you could believe.
普通ではとても信じてもらえないような話なんですか？
I take it that means it's a story most people wouldn't be able to explain, right?
普通の人にはとても。
Not a normal person, that's for sure.
だから最初は昔話から始めることにしたの。
That's why I decided to start right from the beginning.
この町の子なら小学校の時に習うくらい誰でも知っている
With the
こ
ancient
の土地の昔話。
with the ancient history of this region, everyone in town is taught in elementary school. Blah blah blah. Take a little water. Don't worry, I'll read these in a second. In the end, all they could do was look for edible plants. But Mutsu refused to be discouraged, and he went into the thicket to search. Unlike modern times, people ate whatever they could find back then. They didn't have much of a choice when it came to food. So finding anything edible would be a boon beyond all reckoning.
見つかればの話だけれどね。
If there's anything to be found, that is. He decided to go a little further. Anything edible in the easily accessible places had already been taken by others. So the trick was looking in places harder to reach, like up a tree. Mutsu looked for edible plants while also searching for animal tracks. Animals were major targets. Finding a trail meant a chance to trap one.
もっとも向こうも飢えてるだろうからね。
Though they must be starving too.
僕が逆に彼らの食事にされてしまわないように気をつけないと。
I need to be careful to make sure I don't end up a meal myself. The bears and wolves were nowhere to be found. They must have left their usual territories to sate their hunger. Mutsu honed his senses, knowing he was outside his own usual territory as well. Just then, he heard a rustling through the thicket. A rabbit? A raccoon? Or could it be a wolf? Mutsu crouched down, held his breath, and observed carefully. But in the end, what he saw defied his expectation. A woman. You knew it was going to be her. You're 1,000 years too late.
落ち着いて。僕は野党じゃないよ。
Calm yourself. I am no bandit. She must have been scared by his hunting spear. Mutsu lowered it and attempted to convey he bore no ill will.
それは失礼をいたしました。
My humblest apologies. So I'm guessing she's one of the deer gods or whatever of this mountaintop, and they probably injured her, and so she ran into the other territory, and somehow she can take human form, but maybe it's only like a temporary thing. This is my crackpot theory. And so they're gonna fall in love or something, but for some reason she's going to have to become a deer again. Either like there's like a time limit to how much she can spend in human form, or if she crosses over to the other side she turns into a deer or something. And then the other hunters are going to kill her, and Mutsu will not have stopped it, basically. That's my guess, but maybe there'll be something more complicated than that. And maybe she's not a deer. Maybe she's not a shapeshifter. Maybe she's just a girl that just happens to be here. But obviously she's got some kind of, traditional outfit. I don't know. We'll find out. My humblest apologies. Mutsu couldn't take his eyes off her. What he'd found was a great beauty of an Azusa princess. Azusa priestesses referred to wandering shrine priestesses in this era. As mediums who could channel gods and spirits, these shrine princesses were sanctified and respected. Azusa priestess. These shrine priestesses were also evangelists as well as peddlers who brought wisdom and rare goods from afar. Since they were all beautiful young women, it was said that they were gladly welcomed by every village they visited.
このようなところで何を道に迷われましたか
What exactly are you doing in a place like this? Are you lost?
どうかお助けを。連れが足を踏み外して。
Please help me. You must. My companion took a wrong step. Who's your companion? The Azusa princess. I'm gonna say princess so much. The Azusa priestess guided Mutsu to a steep slope at the edge of the thicket. At the bottom crouched an elderly priestess. It seemed she'd gotten lost amid the animal trails and didn't notice the sudden slope before it was too late. Fortunately, a tree trunk had broken her fall, but she'd be in real danger if she took another tumble.
ババ様、人を呼んでまいりました。
Granny, I brought somebody.
それは助かるよ。
Thank you, child. Ugh.
足をくじいている
Did she twist her ankle?
はい。それにババ様はあまり目が。
Yeah, and her eyesight's poor, so.
僕が助けるよ
Let me help.
おばあさんそこにじっとしてて
Oba-chan.
今助けるから
I'll be right there. Mutsu nimbly descended the slope to the old grandmother. He managed to reach the elderly woman with little difficulty.
大丈夫足をやった
You alright? How bad's your leg?
どうにもね。どうにもね。
Donimone. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Ah.
腫れ上がってる
But it's swelling.
無理に立とうとしないで担ぐから
Don't try to stand on it. I'll give you a lift. Mutsu carried the old woman on his back and carefully ascended the slope. She and her companion's luggage were by no means light, but they weren't anything the robust Mutsu couldn't handle. So he took his time making it back up. Eventually, Mutsu managed to bring the old woman to the top of the slope.
ババ様。足が大変。
Baba-sama. Granny. Oh no, your leg.
村は遠くないよ
よろしいのですか。すみません。
My village is close. I'll carry her there. Would you really? Oh, thank you so much.
困った時はお互い様さ
Gotta help each other out in times of need, right?
私、鈴の目と申します。あなた様のお名前はお聞かせください。
My name is Suzunome. Would you grant me your own name?
ムツ
It's Mutsu.
大した名前じゃないんだ6人目に生まれたからムツらしいよ
Quite the dull name, is it not? It means six, since I was the sixth born.
ムツ様、
Sir Mutsu.
感謝します。このご恩は忘れません。本当にありがとうございます。
You have my gratitude, Sir Mutsu. I shall not forget your generosity. Thank you very much, truly. Mutsu felt a red tinge spread across his cheeks when he saw her smile. You know, like, when I'm going through this section, it makes me wanna replay Utaware Ramono. I only played a little bit of it, and I didn't love it. You know, it was very tropey. But, I don't know, just like that kind of like natural setting. It's kind of nice to have a story like that. I think Tears to Tiara was a little more built up than Utaware Ramono, but I could go back to that as well. I didn't really make it far in that at all. I would have to, Tears to Tiara too. I'd have to restart that one. But I definitely want to play that. That's on my PS3. So Mutsu felt a red tinge spread across his cheeks when he saw her smile. His heart soared for the first time in a while. Little did they know this would spark a love that would span a millennium. He's the sixth born. A whole millennium.
1000年遅い
1,000 years too late. A sound akin to a snapping branch resounded from somewhere within the dolls encircling me. Another doll had broken, unable to endure the soot. No number of them would be enough. Even the final doll, my own body, would likely burst in the near future.
小賢しや人鬼たちよ
Such impertinence, man demons.
なれど1000年の長きを耐え我はようやくこれだけのすすを集めた
However, after 1,000 years, I finally gathered all the soot.
もう次はない
There will be no next time.
お前で小賢しき術も終わりを迎えるのだ
That impertinent spell shall end with you.
私の
Well,
苦しみ抜いた1000年にもはや意味などないのか
will my 1,000 years suffering be rendered meaningless?
哀れな女よ我とてお前にだけは同情せずにはいられぬぞ
Poor girl, even I cannot help but sympathize with you.
お前の
I don't need
いらない
your pity.
1000年を巡りようやく帰ってきた思い人であろうが
Though your loved one has returned after 1,000 years.
この運命はお前のいたずらなのか
Is this twist of fate just another one of your tricks?
これは1000年をよく耐え人鬼たちの人柱としての運命を全うしたお前への我からのささやかなねぎらいである
A token of appreciation from me to you for fulfilling your destiny as the man-demon's sacrifice for thousands of years.
ざれごと
Nonsense.
どうせもう終わる運命ではないか
Your role in this shall be coming to an end at any rate. Sorry, I'm trying to go back. So is this a twist of fate? Just another one of your tricks? Token of appreciation from me to you for fulfilling your destiny as the man-demon sacrifice for 1,000 years. Your role in this shall come to an end soon, at any rate.
1000年を経て帰ってきた愛しき男を抱きながら死にたいとは思わぬか
Do you not wish to meet your end, locked in the arms of your lover's embrace?
あの男に抱かれたいだろう
You want that man to take you, yes? Are they gonna explore Toei's whole thing with her, like that other dude? Like, is it just because he looks like our main character or something? Like, not like exactly looks like him, but he's got like kind of bleached hair look. Like, I don't know. Are they gonna explore that more later? Like, why was she putting up with that guy?
鈴原先輩に抱かれたい
I want Suzuhara to take me.
スズムの濃いドロドロのすす
I want
欲しい
I want Suzumu's thick soot.
私の中にスズムの恋のいっぱい注ぎ込んで
And she wants the soot too.
お前が抱かぬならあれを抱きたい者はいくらでもいるようだぞ
If If you don't take him, there are others who certainly will. So she was shape-shifting into them to show her, see, there's these other people.
うるさい。
You shut up.
あんたがいらないならおいらがもらう。
If you don't need him, I'll take him.
鈴原先輩に抱いてもらって 愛してもらって
I want Suzuhara to take me. I want him to love me.
濃くってドロドロしてネバネバする進むの鈴いっぱい欲しい。
And she still wants the soot.
黒髪先輩がいらないなら
If you don't need him,
みんなで鈴む襲っちゃおうか。
then I guess we'll just all take Suzumoon from you.
鈴むを私たち3人で愛しちゃおうかな。
I wonder if Suzumoon would love all three of us.
そして先輩のたくましい鈴いっぱいに頬張ってすすり尽くしちゃうのに。
And then we'll drain all of Suzumo's soot until there's nothing left and we're all stuffed.
鈴むが干からびるまで
Until Suzumu is dry.
いっぱいいっぱいめちゃくちゃに愛されたい。
We want him to love us until he's dry.
我はすでに十分にすすを蓄えている。あれのすすは確かに惜しいが。
I've already stocked up on enough soot. It's a shame that I did not acquire his.
お前がいらぬというならば、
If you don't need him,
この者たちにくれてやってもよいのだがな。
then you have no problem with me letting them have him, do you? ？Go away. My phone must have been ringing for a bit. The sound brought me back to reality little by little.
もしもし。
Hello.
遅えよ。今どこにいんだよ。
You're late. Where the hell are ya?
待たせんじゃねえよ。とっとと来い。
How long you gonna keep us waiting? Get your ass over here.
すみません少様。ちょっと体の具合が。
I apologize, Sir Sho. I am not feeling well.
んなこと聞いてねえよ。言いなすけ解消されてもいいのか。
I don't give a crap. You want me to break off this engagement, do ya?
それは困ります。
No, I don't.
速攻来いよ。いつものカラオケ屋だからな。
Let's start hauling ass. We're at the karaoke joint as usual, you hear?
恥をかかせんじゃねえよ、ったくよ。
Effing hell. Don't embarrass me like that. He angrily hung up. I need to marry that man.
けなげなことよ。そのようなゲスに未だに海外しく尽くすとは。
How gallant is that? You still devote yourself to such scum.
もはやお前には不要な言い名付けであろうに。
To an engagement you no longer need. Go away. Perhaps the engagement was no longer necessary. After all, I suspected that it would end with me before another generation could even begin. But maybe, just maybe, I could keep holding on. So I still needed that man for that slim possibility. However, even if it didn't conclude with my generation, it could very well just end with the next. But that was my duty. That was the sole reason why we were given life. It's still kind of cryptic, so I'm not quite getting it. It was said that the origin of the Iwaimoto shrine lay in a shrine priestess who married its chief god, Roku Gamihiko no Mikoto, 1,000 years ago. Now, Iwaimoto, yeah, this is this shrine. Iwaimoto Shrine was built to celebrate the wedding with a god, according to local history anyway. However, even when considering the size of the village back then, it was hard to believe that any priestess would be stationed in a place so small. It was considered more likely they were a poor farming village, and that said shrine priestess was in fact a traveling Azusa priestess.
ムツ様、なんとお礼を申し上げたらよいやら。
I don't know how I can ever repay you, Sir Mutsu.
あのままくれていたらと思うとゾッとします。本当に助かりました。
I fear to wonder what would have happened if nightfall had come. You truly are a savior.
巫女様の役に立てて嬉しいよ。おばあさんの足、早く良くなるといいね。
Happy to be of service to you. I just hope your companion's leg heals quickly. The old woman's leg was swollen to the point where she couldn't even stand. What's more, she developed a fever, either from her wound or exhaustion. Thus, she and Suzanome would stay in this village until they healed. Whoops. Normally, visitors would be shunned in this time of famine. However, it was a different story with the Azusa priestesses involved.
村長たちは巫女様たちに雨乞いをしてもらえないかと期待してるよ。
The villagers will be expecting you to pray for rain.
この辺りは日照りでどこもだいぶひどいようですね。
This region certainly seems to be suffering from a horrible drought.
雨か。さもなくば食べ物を降らしてくれると助かるんだけどね。
All we need is some rain or sustenance and we could survive.
声が届けば必ず神は答えてくださるでしょう。
I'm sure your prayers will be answered once they reach the heavens. The prayers of an Azusa priestess were a legitimate business. A village as poor as this couldn't possibly afford one. So it seemed the mayor and the others were hoping they could ask for help in exchange for letting the old woman stay until she recovered.
私はババ様には到底及ばぬ、まだ修行中の身ですが、私でよければ。
I'm still in training, and I don't even begin to reach Granny's level.
この鈴の目、ご恩返しにぜひお力添えをさせていただきたく存じます。
But if you don't mind, then I, Suzanome, would like to do all I can in exchange for this favor.
それはありがたいな。村のみんなも喜ぶよ。
That's wonderful. Everybody will be pleased.
ぜひどうか雨を降らしてもらえるように神様にお願いを頼むよ。
Please, ask the gods for rain.
私にできるのは口寄せです。
My skill is in channeling.
ですので、それを頼むのは村の皆さんになりますが。
So it will have to be the villagers that do the asking.
口寄せって？
Channeling.
私たちに伝わる神や霊と交信する秘術です。
A secret art taught to us that allows communication with gods and spirits. Nowadays, people who had inherited such talents were known as shamans. Long ago, there were many who wished to converse with the gods, or their departed loved ones. Thus, these women were prized for their ability to do such things, ability to allow such beings to possess them. So, yeah, she can be possessed by some crazy demon god thing.
すごいね。そんな術が使えるなんて。
And dead people. You can do something like that? That's amazing.
どうでしょう。老女を背負ってあの急斜面を登ることができるお力の方が私はすごいと思います。
Truly? I think someone who can carry an elderly woman by himself at such a steep slope is more amazing.
そうかな。
You think so?
私にできることなど口寄せだけ。
All I can do is channel the gods and spirits.
ムツ様のように上手にベッタをひっくり返すことなどできませぬ。
I could never flip over a betta as skillfully as you can.
ムツの番だよ。頼むよ、ムツ。
It's your turn, Mutsu. Come on, Mitsu.
よし、僕に任せて。一発逆転しちゃうぞ。
Alright, I'll turn this around here and now. Mutsu had been playing a game with the village children. It was a local game popular with the youth, known as betta. One took discs made of knitted rice straw, the size of a child's palm, the betta in question, and threw them at the ground. It seemed it had evolved from a game where you did the same but with old broken sandals. You won by flipping over your opponent's betta with the force of your throw. It was similar to the game Manko, played in 20th century Japan. Food was indeed short, and the adults were seized with fear of not knowing what would come next. But children were resilient, no matter how dark the times. Even amidst famine, the children played their hearts out.
よーし
Alright.
それ
Yeah. A crunching sound followed. The two bettas, the one thrown and the one lying on the ground, sprung up lightly. All bettas had a flip side. The side sticking up was known as the male, while the side facing the ground was known as the female. If you could reverse the position of your opponent's betta, you won.
さっき出っ張った側だったのがへこんだ側になりましたね。
It seems the bottom is facing up now, huh? Now that's supposed to be Suzunome's line, but is it?
そうなれば取れたことになるんだ。
That's right, that's how you win points.
さっき出っ張った側だったのがへこんだ側になりましたね。ムツ様のように
I guess it
ム
is.
ツの番だよ。
Yeah,
頼むよ。
that's right, that's how you win points, by flipping the other side up.
ムツは昔からベッタがすっげえうめえんだよ。
Mutsu's been a master of betta forever.
ほとんどビッチャしないもんな。
He's almost never had a bicha before. Bicha referred to when your opponent flipped your betta, but it's landed in the same position as it had been before, resulting in new points. Okay, you flipped your opponent's betta, but it landed in the same position as it had been in before, resulting in no points.
力加減にコツがあるんだよ。無駄に力を込めても意味ないんだ。
It's all in the strength. You don't have to put a lot of force into it.
むしろ少し軽めに打つくらいがちょうどいいんだ。
In fact, it's best to do the betta lightly. Mitsu's turn came again. Look closely, he said as he threw his betta. His opponent's betta flew up, but only slightly, yet it perfectly flipped over. Using too much strength would have left the result purely up to luck, like flipping a coin. However, not anyone could imitate his throw. Thanks to his skill, Mutsu had been the best betta player in the village since he was a child.
巫女様はやらんの？
Will you play, Lady Priestess?
巫女様もやろうよ、ベッタ。
Yeah, play betta with us, Priestess.
私ですか？私にもできるでしょうか？
Me? Do you really think I could do it?
できるよ。鈴の目様にだって簡単にできるさ。
Sure, it's simple. Even a beginner like you could do it, Lady Suzunome.
まだ修行中の身、様などつけて呼ばれるほどではありませぬ。
I'm in training. I'm not worthy of being called a lady.
でも面白そうです。ぜひやらせてくださいませ。
But it does look fun, so I would like to join in.
僕のベッタを貸すよ。
Use my betta.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you so much.
わあ、これがベッタ。面白そうですね。
Ah, so this is betta. Oh man, it seems so fun. Suzunome's face lit up with keen curiosity, a smile befitting a maiden her age gracing her features. Though she was a priestess, she had apparently been just another village girl as a child. She had run around the fields and hills, chased rabbits, and laid on the prairie while eating fruit from trees.
これで打てばいいのですね。
So I just gotta throw it, right?
そう。どれでも好きなのを狙って打ちつけて。
Yep, just aim at the betta on the ground.
力加減が肝心ですよね。これは難しい。
You said you need to be wary of how much strength you use, right? This is difficult.
最初は何も考えずにやっていいと思うよ。
You shouldn't think too hard about it for now. Just throw it.
ベッタに当てるのだって最初は慣れがいるしね。
It takes a lot of experience to hit a betta at first.
では参ります。
Then I shall go. With a crack, Betta sprung into the air. The children gasped in amazement. After all, Suzunome's throw had just flipped over her opponent's Betta, as though it were light as a feather.
いい感じにできました。これは取れたのですか？
Oh, that felt good. I did it. How was that? Did I get a point?
すごいや。見事だね。
Yeah, it was amazing. Well done.
巫女様すごいや、すごいす
Oh, you're so amazing, Shrine Priestess. That was great.
取れたら連続してやれるんだ。だからまた鈴の様が
You get to go again if you score a point. So, if you will, Lady Suzunome. Oh, wait.
様はつけなくてもいいんだっけ？
You asked not to be called Lady, right?
はい、ムツ様。鈴の目とお呼びを。
Yes, please. Just call me Suzunome, Sir Mutsu.
そっちも様をやめてくれるなら僕もやめるよ。
If I don't have to call you Lady, then you don't have to call me Sir.
はい。では、そのように。ムツ。
Alright, please go on then, Mutsu.
だからもう一回鈴の目の番だよ。
Right, as I said, you can go on ahead, Suzunome.
わかりました。では、再び、参ります。
Understood, Mutsu. Here I go.
てりゃ
あ、巫女様すっげ
Whoa, you're incredible.
すごいね。またひっくり返した。
Amazing, you flipped it again.
僕なんか最初の頃は当てるだけでも難しかったのにな。
And here I had trouble just hitting it when I started out.
また行きます。そりゃ
Here I go again. Yeah.
初心者ってものすごく運がいい時ってあるよね。
Talk about beginner's luck, you know?
またひっくり返りました。また行きます。りゃ
I flipped it again. Here I go again. Yeah.
巫女様すっげベッタの天才だ
She's incredible. She must be a better genius.
ムツって実はあんまりすごくないの？
Maybe Mutsu isn't that impressive after all.
ムツ大人だしな。ひょっとしたら大人なら誰でもうまいんじゃね？
Well, Mutsu's an adult, so maybe all adults are that good at it.
ベッタってとっても面白いです。それにすごい簡単ですね。
Beta is quite fun. It's quite easy to play, isn't it?
ムツ？
Mutsu, the man hailed by the village children as a better master, stood there pitifully as his pride was shattered to pieces.
鈴の目勝負を申し込め
Suzunome, I challenge you.
はい、望むところです。
Okay, as you wish. A thunderous crack split the air.
あ、今のビッチャですよね。ビッチャビッチャ。
Oh, that was a bicha, wasn't it? Bicha bicha.
力みすぎた
I used too much strength.
では今度は私の番ですね。参ります。
Then it's my turn. Here I come. A thunderous crack followed.
巫女様すげえ、天才だ。
She's amazing. She's a genius.
ムツも頑張れよ。オイラたちの大将だろ。
Don't you give up, Mutsu. You're the best of us all.
あー今ビッチャービッチャビッチャー
Hey, that one was a bicha. Bicha bicha.
ビッチャじゃないです。最初からメスでした。
No, it wasn't. It was upside down from the start.
ビッチャじゃないよ。巫女様が正しいよ。
It wasn't a bicha. The lady princess is right.
ムツ見苦しいぞ。
The lady priestess. Mutsu, you're embarrassing yourself.
さあ、あと1枚ですね。これをひっくり返せば子供たちの大将ムツの誇りも粉々ですね。
There's only one more left, isn't there? Then if I flip this one, then the children will lose all respect for you.
この甘俺がベッタの名人に上り詰めるまでの苦労をすべて打ち砕く気か
Accursed wench! I worked hard to become the best beta player. I will not be bested by the likes of you.
ムツ、一体いつからこの遊びがこの村だけのものと錯覚していた？
Mutsu, did you seriously believe this game was unique to this village?
鈴の目貴様この遊びやり込んでいるな
Suzunome, you fiend! You're an expert at this, aren't you?
答える必要はない。
I have no reason to tell you. Suzunome's betta let out a sharp crack as she struck the ground, and the final betta flew high into the sky. Would Mutsu's betta flip over, or would it be a bicha?
完璧な力加減、完璧な跳躍、完璧な回転。ムツ、破れたり。
Perfect strength, perfect jump, perfect rotation. Victory is mine, Mutsu.
この状況で勝利を確信するとは。少子
It's foolish to think you've won.
どうやら鈴の目、貴様の村には伝わらなかったらしいな。
It seems they didn't teach you this in your village.
ベッタ界に伝えられる究極の奥義を。
The ultimate skill passed through the world of betta.
何？
What? All of a sudden, Mutsu caught his falling betta and threw it at Suzunome's.
これぞ超絶究極非奥義スターダストシート
Taste the power of the super ultimate technique. Stardust shot. Super ultimate secret technique.
何がおかしい
What? What's so funny?
この地ではその技をそう呼ぶか。だが我が村では奥義なれど究極奥義にあらず。
Oh, so that's what they call that technique in this region. But it's not secret, nor is it the ultimate technique in my village.
それを打ち負かす真の奥義が編み出されていたことを知れ。
Fear the secret technique devised to counter it. Suzunome jumped high, higher than the beta sent flying up by Mutsu's Stardust shot.
新進王究極絶対奥義ムツ貴様の腐敗神話への引導ここでくれてやるわ
Time for the true super ultimate technique. This shall send your immortal legend to the grave, Mutsu.
くらえクライマックスハレーストライク
Eat this. Climax Sunshine Strike. Explosion. The beta howled as it sliced through the barrier, sound barrier, and with a wham, it smashed into the ground with great force, shooting clouds of dust in the air. Who was the winner? Was it Mutsu or Suzunome? Did the plates break? The two of them landed, one after the other. And after a few seconds, the betas landed on the ground for good. Only now would the result be revealed.
相打ちですか
A tie, is it?
いや違うね君だけビッチャだ
No, that's wrong. Only you got a beacha.
いいえ、あなたもピッチャです。
No, you had a beacha early too.
違うね鈴の目だけがビッチャだ
Wrong. You're the only one with a beacha here.
違います。ムツだけがビッチャです。
You're wrong. You're the only one that got a beacha. Absolutely wrong.
違うね鈴の目だけがビッチャだよビッチャビッチャ
Wrong. You're the only beacha here. Beacha, beacha, beacha.
子供たちに判定してもらいましょう。勝ったのはどっちですか？
Let's let the children decide which one of us won.
僕だよね見てたでしょみんな
It was me. You all saw, didn't you?
すごすぎてよくわかんなかった。
It was so amazing that I couldn't tell. The adult thing to do in this situation would be to call it a draw.
鈴の目がビッチャだよ
You had the beacha, Suzunome.
いいえ、ムツだけがビッチャです。
No, you were the one with the beacha, Mutsu.
鈴の目がビッチャビッチャビッチャ
No, you were beacha, beacha.
違います、ムツです。ビッチャビッチャビッチャビッチ
How wrong you are, Mutsu. Beacha, beacha. A young man and woman were shouting beacha at each other back and forth in the village square. Villagers had gathered from a distance to see what was going on. Some were laughing, while others grinned and looked awkwardly away.
ャ。いいえ、あなたがビッチャです。このビッチャビッチャ。
No, you got the beacha, so I beacha. Beacha, beacha.
そっちがビッチャだよビッチャのビッチャビッチャビチャ
No, I beacha. Beacha, beacha, beacha.
若いっていいわね。ムツも年頃だし。
It must be nice to be so young. Mutsu's at that flirting age, I suppose.
最近の若いもんは大胆じゃの
But it sounds like there's trouble in paradise already. Ugh. Eventually, the two of them finally realized how foolish they were acting. Then they suddenly blushed and became lost for words. Not knowing what to do, they faced the villagers surrounding them and bowed. And then they ran as fast as they could. They wanted to find some hole to hide in, and would go as far as needed to find one. The pair started laughing and threw themselves onto the prairie. They looked up and watched as the sky slowly but surely changed from orange to violet. The two talked about themselves until the sun set. Suzunome hadn't always been destined to be an Azusa priestess. Apparently, she was born and raised as an ordinary village girl. She was discovered by a bandit until she was discovered by a band of Azusa priestesses and began training with them. She had been certain that she developed a full composed personality, one completely devoted to serving those above her. But as the day's events had proven, the part of her that loved playing games still remained deep down inside her.
ありがとう、ムツ。こんなに目いっぱいはしゃいだのは本当に久しぶりです。
Thank you, Mitsu. It truly has been so long since I played to my heart's content.
すごい楽しかった。
I had a lot of fun.
僕も
Me too.
楽しかったよ。僕の場合はまあいつもはしゃいでいるけれど。
Though I'm always playing around like that, I guess.
私の村ではベッタではなくバッタと呼んでいたのですが、
In my village, they call that Bata, not Beta.
まさかバッタの神の生まれ変わりとまで言われた私と腕前の白昼する人に出会えるなんて。
In my village, they called me the Avatar of Beta. I never imagined I'd meet someone who could rival my skills.
世の中って広いね。いろんな人がいるんだね。
The world sure is a big place, huh? Far too big for you to be the completely unrivaled.
鈴の目が羨ましいよ。いろんな土地に旅に行って見聞を広げられるのが。
How I envy you, Suzunome. I wish I could travel around and broaden my horizons.
でもちょっぴり疲れます。
Well, it is a mite tiring.
最初の頃はいろいろと興味深くて面白かったですが、
At first, it was fascinating and fun.
ババ様のような弱いになっても旅暮らしかと思うとちょっぴり嫌になる時もあります。
But then there's been times where I don't enjoy it, like when I think about how I'll still be on the road at Granny's age.
荷物は重いですし、旅路も険しいし、
Luggage is heavy and the roads are dangerous.
ババ様と二人きりの旅なら気も楽ですが、年の近い巫女がもっといると、女同士だといろいろ疲れることもありまして。
I feel at ease when it's just Granny and me traveling, but when there are other girls involved, it gets a little tiring.
あずさみこは荷物持ちの人足とかいないの？
Azusa priestesses don't have people to carry their luggage for them?
裕福な方々ですと、荷物持ちや用心棒の男手を連れ歩かれることもあるようです。
I've heard older Azusa priestesses can afford to have male companions carry their luggage and protect them.
へえ。あずさみこにも裕福とか裕福じゃないとか、そういうことがあるんだ。
So the concept of wealth exists even with Azusa priestesses, huh? Though known collectively as Azusa priestesses, there were in fact a wide variety of priestesses. The most common types were the groups hired by large villages to come and visit them at fixed intervals. But there were also those who acted as missionaries, trying to spread the word of God to more backwater villages. There were also those who traveled with peddlers, as well as those who worked as women of easy virtue. Susanome and her companions had once belonged to a large group, but being in such a large party created a lot of discord. Tired of seeing that, Susanome had left them along with Granny, the woman she considered her mentor, and begun a journey with her, which resulted in her meeting Mutsu.
やはり老婆と若い女だけの旅では危ないですね。
A journey with only an old woman and a young lady truly is dangerous.
たまたまムツに助けてもらえたから良いようなものを
We are truly blessed that you saved us when you did.
そうだね。この辺りはクマやオオカミが出ることも多いし。
It can be dangerous in these parts. There's a lot of bears around.
クマやオオカミならまだしも、もし出会っていたのが野党だったらと思うと。
I'd rather deal with the wolves and bears than the bandits.
それは怖いね。
That would have been terrifying.
ムツみたいな人が一緒にいてくれたら、
If I had somebody like you with us,
荷物持ちも楽になるし、いざという時も頼れるでしょうに。
you could defend us even when the going gets tough and carry our bags for us.
いいね。僕も鈴の目についていって旅がしたいな。
Going on a journey with you, that sure sounds nice. Of course, they both knew it was a pipe dream. In this era, villagers had to prepare food, not just for themselves, but for the annual tribute, too. A man in the prime of his life like Mitsu was valuable to his family. If he were gone, then it would fall upon his elderly parents to do the work in his place.
僕も旅がしたいな。
I'd love to go on a journey, too.
私もかつては同じ夢を思い描いておりました。
I used to have the same dream.
いざやってみると楽しくない。
You don't enjoy actually doing it?
相手次第でしょうか。
Depends on who I'm with, I suppose.
気の合わない相手との旅は苦痛ですが、
It's not fun when I don't get along with my traveling companion.
気の合う相手との旅だったなら、どれほど楽しいことなのでしょうね。
But when I do get along with my traveling companions, it's so much fun. The two looked into each other's eyes. From that alone, they could tell what they were feeling, what they both wanted. However, it could never be. The old woman's leg wasn't healing quickly enough, so Suzunomi would likely remain around for a while. But eventually, she'd have to return to the road. But Mutsu couldn't join Suzunome. A fate dictated that Mutsu would have to watch her leave.
旅に戻ったらもう二度と鈴の目とは会えないのかな。
Once you leave, will we never meet again?
きっと必ずこの村にまた戻ってきます。
I swear I'll return to the village someday.
戻ってもまた旅に出ちゃうんだよね。
But even if you did, you'd have to leave again, right?
それがあずさみ湖のお役目ですから。
Well, that is my duty as an Azusa priestess.
私たちを求める人々はあちこちにいます。その方々を私は救済しなくてはなりません。
There are people everywhere who need us, and it's our job to help them.
そうだよね。
Yeah, you're right. Mutsu knew he couldn't be selfish and say he wanted her all to himself. When she saw his face dim slightly, Suzunome gave him an encouraging smile.
だから
So,
旅に出ても何度出ても何度でもこの村に戻ってきます。
until the day comes when you can travel with me,
いつの日にかムツが私と一緒に旅に出られるようになる日までずっと
I will keep coming back to this village, no matter how many journeys I take, always.
鈴の目。
Oh. The sky was painted over in colors of night by this point. Under it, the pair's silhouette proved to overlap. Or appeared to overlap. From that day onward, the two continued their tryst, making the most of their limited time. Journeys were harsh in this era. No matter how much she promised to see him again, they knew there was no guarantee of it. Then maybe I should just stay in this village. Suzunome entertained that motion many a time. But there were people counting on her. People who eagerly awaited the arrival of an Azusa priestess. And of course, there was no way she could just abandon the journey and leave her elderly companion to continue it alone. Mutsu wouldn't dare tell her he wanted her to abandon her noble mission and take her for his own. So he put his faith in their reunion and vowed not to waste a single moment of their time together. Even when the moon shone brightly around them, the pair did not separate. The old woman's leg wasn't getting any better. Perhaps the strain of the long journey had caught up with her. She'd broken out into a fever and was showing no signs of recovery. It pained Suzunome's heart to know they had brought even more mouths to feed to a starving village. Picking up on that, the elder asked her to pray for rain.
わかりました。お引き受けさせていただきます。
I understand. I shall accept.
ありがたや。
Oh, thank you.
ただ、私のできるのは雨乞いではなく、口寄せです。
But I can't do it myself.
この地を守る産砂神を私の体に下ろすことしかできません。
I'm only capable of channeling the guardian deity of the land.
ということは六神様を。
Which means you can bring the Lord Rokugami into your body.
わしらは六神様と話せるちゅうのか。
We could speak to Lord Rokugami?
つまり雨を降らせてもらえるかどうかは
In other words, whether we see rain in our future or not.
僕たちが六神様の心に届くお願いができるかどうか
That depends
ということだね。
That depends entirely on whether our pleas reach Lord Rokugami's heart, yes?
そうなります。
Right.
でも、皆様の敬う気持ちと、本当に困っているという気持ちがあったなら、必ず届くでしょう。
If you possess reverence and genuine fear for your future, I guarantee you your pleas will not fall on deaf ears. The villagers were abuzz with fear and anxiety. They were daunted by the prospect of having to speak to a being so awe-inspiring as their god. The mayor calmed him down. They had no other choice. Without rain, they wouldn't count on the autumn harvest. But if they knew they just had to hold out until autumn, they could find hope again.
頼みますぞ、巫女様。
We're counting on you, Lady Priestess.
かしこまりました。
Got it. There was an abandoned temple nearby the village. Now you may be wondering why someone would build a temple in such a remote location. Well, some distinguished monks came from the capital and mentioned that it would be the perfect spot for a temple. That's all there was to it. But right before the temple was to be completed, part of it burnt down, under suspicious circumstances. It seemed it hadn't been very popular. The bad luck didn't end there. At some point, the virtuous monks collapsed from illness. As a result, they departed the land, leaving only the unused temple behind. Thus, in this village, the temple was the most fitting place for divine rituals. On the night of the ritual, the villagers gathered there out of curiosity. Before long, a god would appear and speak before the villagers. It was awe-inspiring, and yet something no one ever wished to have to resort to again. As the anxious villagers clamored around the main temple hall, Suzunome began the solemn ritual. If it's okay, I think I'm gonna cut the video here, because we've been reading for a bit. So I am gonna cut it here. Let's see. Just want to make sure the video's all caught up. Yeah, it is. So I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to save, and next time we'll find out. Obviously, this ritual is probably not going to go well. Like, she's going to get possessed by whatever this demon or something is, and then she's going to get, stuck with it forever. But yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out what happens. I don't know. I guess it makes sense that they get kind of reborn or taken in by a family in the future. Like, I think they're reborn. Like, their souls have been reborn in the future. And, like, they keep dying and coming back. But Suzunome and Mutsu were the originals. And now it's Toei Kurakami and Suzumu Suzuhara. And it just so happens to be that, like, they have these old ancient people in them or whatever. Like, it's not like they've been born again. It's not like they have lived for 1,000 years, I think. But I guess we'll find out. Maybe they just get taken in by those two religions, and they like just lose their memory. I don't know. We'll find out. So see you next time.